Hello, folks. Welcome to Jeremy Hadler's YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jeremy Hadler, and today I'll be talking about the greatest running back of all time. Before I start, make sure you leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications and subscribe to the channel, please. I would appreciate it. Right now, trying to get 250 subs by the end of the summer, hoping to get that. So now we get into running backs. We move from the defensive side, as we just have for our last episode, safeties with our special guest, Mike. Now we move into the running backs. I figure I'd give you guys a fun position to do. So I'll be doing running backs today. Let me remind you guys of the rules, if you're not already familiar with the rules on the GOAT series here. For a player and the GOAT series list, I pick 5 players. I have 1 honorable mention, so that's 6 total players. What I look for when I'm putting these players on my list here, which is not ranked whatsoever, is I look for their achievements, I look for their stats, how much they had impact on the game. Let's get started with running backs. What is a running back? Well, a running back is receiving handoffs. It's like quarterback coming in, hands it off to the running back. I take the ball and I run. I just go like Forrest Gump trying to run down the field. That's what it is. You're just running. That's what it is. You're just running. And the other part of being a running back is you're blocking in the pocket to help protect the quarterback so he doesn't get sacked and doesn't have to face that much pressure. The third thing for them is catching the ball so they can be using dumped off plays, wheel routes, used as a receiver too. You'll see some guys do that, whether it's Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley. You don't see a Derrick Henry because he's a bulldozer guy, so you'll see him run through it. Nick Chubb's another guy who will catch the ball too. CMC will be another player that does that too. So there's some guys that are mobile of being able to be like a receiver a little bit and will run at or maybe play decoy too. So that's what a running back's main job is. But let's start off with our honorable mention. This player played 11 seasons with the Rams, the Colts, the Raiders, the Falcons. That is Eric Dickerson. He's won Offensive Player of the Year 1 time. He won Rookie of the Year 1 time. Made the All-Rookie team his rookie year. 5 First-Team All-Pro. 6 Pro Bowls. Made the 80s All-Decade team. 1-time NFL rushing touchdowns leader. You see, 3-time rushing yards leader. He made the 100th anniversary team. He made the Colts Ring of Honor, retired his number with the Los Angeles Rams, which is 29, and then get into his NFL records, which he holds a lot. He has the most rushing yards in a season, has the most rushing yards in a rookie season, and most rushing yards in a playoff game. For the most rushing yards in a season, that was 2,105. For a rookie season, that was 1,808. For a playoff game, that was 248 rushing yards in a playoff game. His stats, folks. 13,259 rushing yards. That's the 9th all-time. His rushing average per carry was 4.4 yards. He had 90 rushing TDs, tied for 13th. He had 281 receptions. He had 2,137 receiving yards. When you watch this guy, he was a freak of nature. Given his size, him being not that big and strong as the other guys were, he was as fast and quick and just dodge defenders. He would just keep going through, power through, have that nice cut, and just keep going. That's a nice thing I saw of Eric Dickerson. And being very consistent, as I mentioned, the 5 first-team All-Pros, very good to see him there, and very good for the statistics. So I have to give him an honorable mention right here. And then we get into our next player. This is one of the great myth questions in the NFL you could ask. Had he stayed in the NFL a little longer, who knows what he could have accomplished more and what he could have achieved and made more of an impact in the NFL. That being said, that is Barry Sanders. Played 10 seasons with the Detroit Lions. One franchise. Impressive to see there. 10 seasons. He could have gone a lot longer, folks. He could have gone a lot longer. He got drafted by the Detroit Lions. Best draft pick decision ever by the Detroit Lions. My Packers could have taken him. Instead, we took Tony Mandarich. That was a great draft for the Packers. Great draft. But it did lead us to a Super Bowl from that, so I'll take it there. And he won NFL MVP in 1997 with Brett Favre, so was a co-MVP at that time. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's a 2-time Offensive Player of the Year. The 6 First-Team All-Pro, ladies and gentlemen. 6. That's impressive. 4 Second-Team All-Pro. 10-time Pro Bowler. 4-time rushing yards leader. 1-time rushing touchdowns leader. Made the 90th All-Decade team. Made the 100th anniversary team in the NFL. Retired his number with the Detroit Lions, number 20. Got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004. This is the interesting thing that I always found with him is consistency. 10 seasons, so his entire career, he had at least 1,000 rushing yards. Incredible. Third person to gain over 2,000 rushing yards season. So he's the third person in the NFL to do that as of this moment. And he recorded 5 1,500 rushing yard seasons. In addition to that, he's the only running back to do that for 4 consecutive seasons. Very impressive to do that. That's very, as I mentioned, the consistency is what I'm looking at here. His stats, folks: 99 rushing touchdowns, 15,269 rushing yards, 4th in rushing yards all time, 10th in rushing touchdowns. His worst game he ever had, -1 yard of rushing yards. -1. That is very rare to see out of Barry Sanders to have that. And that was against my team. Barry Sanders, just a freak of nature, unbelievable talent he was. Went through defenses, created holes, faced the best defenses you ever think of, still kept going through it, caused problems for the defense. He would create holes. Defenders kept missing tackles. They kept missing them. It's just amazing to see. Probably more missed tackles than any running back in the history of the NFL was Barry Sanders. The powerful legs, the balance, he had great reflexes, able to stop short up and then cut. He would stop and change directions going. It was just amazing to see Barry Sanders. Nobody could stop him whatsoever. It's just unbelievable of how Barry Sanders, given the talent, how he achieved that so much and being very consistent in just an amazing talent. So have to put Barry Sanders up here on this list. Just an unbelievable talent. And now we get to our next player. This guy played 11 seasons, 9 with the Los Angeles Chargers, 2 with the New York Jets, 170 games. That is LaDainian Tomlinson, LT, won an NFL MVP. He was an Offensive Player of the Year, 1 time for each of those. He was a 1-time Walter Payton Man of the Year award, 3 first-team All-Pro, 3 second-team All-Pro, 5 Pro Bowls. That's amazing. 2-time rushing yards leader, another amazing achievement there. 3-time rushing touchdowns leader, 1-time NFL scorer in there. Very rare to do that. A 2000s All-Decade team. He retired with the Chargers. He's inducted into the Chargers Hall of Fame. The NFL record he has, which amazed me, and this is a rare thing to occur, probably won't be broken for a huge, long time. Most rushing touchdowns in an NFL season. Take a guess. 28. 28 rushing touchdowns. He was an electric running back. He had the speed, amazing player, but 28 rushing touchdowns. That's unbelievable. Nobody sees that today in the NFL. Whether it's CMC, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, whatever running back you want to name, Josh Jacobs. No running back will probably do that for a long time. That's just amazing to see that. Another NFL record he has is most touchdowns from scrimmage in a season, which was 31. So including the 28 rushing touchdowns was the 2006 season where he won the NFL MVP. He had 3 receiving touchdowns, which made it 31. And in that same season, he had the most consecutive games with a touchdown, which is 18. He's tied for that. Most points scored in a single season was 186. He's 3rd in total touchdowns. His stats, folks: 13,684 rushing yards, 145 rushing touchdowns, 624 receptions, 4,772 receiving yards, 2nd all-time rushing TDs, 7th in rushing yards. Now, as I mentioned before, the electricness, he was quick, outrun people no matter what. He was unstoppable. You can't tackle him. He would just break the tackle, make you miss. He was just an electric player. And that's what the Chargers is. It's a lightning bolt. He was that lightning bolt out there for the Chargers. You just can't catch him. He was too quick and like a flash. Got to have LaDainian Tomlinson here. Amazing player, especially the NFL record with having most rushing touchdowns in a season, 28. And now we move on to our next player, which passed away recently. Played 9 seasons with the Cleveland Browns. That is Jim Brown. Rest in peace, Jim Brown. 3-time NFL MVP. Went to 9 straight Pro Bowls in his entire career. So he made the Pro Bowl every single year. That's like Joe Thomas being an amazing player with the Cleveland Browns. That's a shout out to Cleveland Brown fans if they know what I'm talking about. He won Rookie of the Year. 8 first-team All-Pro. Amazing to see that. 1-time second-team All-Pro. 9-time Pro Bowlers, I just mentioned. 8-time rushing yards leader. 5-time rushing touchdowns leader. 1-time NFL scorer. Made the 60s All-Decade team. Made the 50th, 75th, and 100th anniversary team in the NFL. Inducted into the Browns Ring of Honor. Retired his number with the Cleveland Browns, number 32. His stats, folks: 12,312 rushing yards, 106 rushing touchdowns, 262 receptions, and was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. He's the first player ever to rush over 10,000 rushing yards, and he won a championship with the Browns. He had the most rushing yards at his time. He's the Cleveland Browns all-time leading rusher. He's 6th all-time in rushing touchdowns. 11th in rushing yards. Very fast player. When you go watch the highlights, whatever you can see of footage of Jim Brown, explosive guy. As soon as he goes, you can't catch him. It's just amazing to see how dominant he was in his era. Set the bar high, very high for the running backs. Revolutionized that position and just made it amazing to see that with Jim Brown. Amazing player. Rest in peace, Jim Brown, but he was an amazing player of how he impacted the game, dominated his position, a great player and a great guy in general. Made defenders miss the tackles. Jim Brown, a powerful, explosive guy. Just an amazing player to have here. Now let's move on to our next player. This guy played 13 seasons with the Chicago Bears, nicknamed Sweetness. That is Walter Payton. Rest in peace, Walter Payton. Rest in peace, Walter Payton. He's a 5 first-team All-Pro, 3 second-team All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler, 1-time rushing yards and touchdown leader. He's a 4-time rushing attempts leader, made the 70s and 80s All-Decade team, made the 75th and 100th anniversary team in the NFL all-time. He retired with the Chicago Bears, number 34. He's a Super Bowl champion. For folks that probably heard his name before, the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. That is because of him, how he was off the field. And I also forgot to mention about Jim Brown, very civic person too. Walter Payton would always help out communities. He would always help out shelters. He would always just want to be helpful to people in their communities. He just wanted to be that person. That's why the award is named after him, even though he passed away many years ago. That's what the award is named after because of how he contributed off the field. So that's what the award is, and he won that award because of his name, but he won that award. His stats, folks. He had 77 100-yard games, 16,726 rushing yards, 110 rushing TDs, 492 receptions. He won the NFL MVP in 1977. He's a 1-time Offensive Player of the Year. As I mentioned with the Super Bowl, the 85 Bears might be the greatest defense of all time, as I mentioned before, the middle linebackers. That team was amazing, even though I hate the Bears. Have to give credit where it's due for them, especially with Walter Payton, the running back too. I mean, he's 5th all-time rushing TDs. He's 2nd all-time in rushing yards. Had so many consecutive starts by a running back, he had the most consecutive regular season starts by a running back, which was 170. It's just amazing to see that. And he's 11th in total touchdowns. I mean, when you watch this guy and you see the highlights of him, again, very explosive. He refused to go down. The arm is what he's known for, the stiff arm. Now, he refused to go down, and he just pushed guys out of the way. Go boom, 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 just push them out of the way, spin move, whatever. And he would just go through and kept going and going, never gave up, and he just got the touchdowns. This is the Frank Gore of the list. Now, for folks that don't know what the Frank Gore term means, it means they've played the longest years at their position, and Frank Gore is a running back, but he fortunately did not make the list here. That was 15 seasons in the NFL. That is Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith has the most rushing touchdowns and most rushing yards in NFL history. 3-time Super Bowl champion. Aikman, you had the Cowboys offensive line, you had Michael Irvin, just amazing players. The interesting thing, as I mentioned before, with Barry Sanders being a consistent player, Emmitt Smith was also a consistent player. 11 straight seasons with at least 1,000 rushing yards. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He won the NFL MVP 1 time. He's a 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. He's a 4-time rushing yards leader, 3-time rushing touchdowns leader, 1-time NFL scorer, made the 90s All-Decade team, made the 100th anniversary team, inducted into the Cowboys Ring of Honor, got into the NFL Hall of Fame in 2010. He's 2nd all-time in total touchdowns. His stats, folks: 515 receptions, 164 rushing touchdowns, 18,355 rushing yards. He also won Super Bowl MVP in that time when he won the Super Bowls. He won a Super Bowl MVP there year and won the NFL MVP. He was Superman out there. You can't stop the guy. Explosives, as I mentioned with the guys. Bulldoze his way through, break the tackles. He would do spin moves. Anyway, the cuts, he would just get through everyone, no matter how many times you try to stop him. You just can't stop the guy. He's unstoppable. You just get through and beat you every time. And now we get to my goats. For me, it comes down to 2 players, Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders, let's say he's a very talented player. Emmitt Smith had the better statistics and achievements. Now, the difference between both of them, in my opinion, was the offensive line. Cowboys' offensive line at that time is one of the best offensive lines in the history of NFL. Barry Sanders, he didn't have a good offensive line whatsoever. He really didn't. You just have random guys out there. It could be a trash offensive line, and he still gets through it. For me, I think Emmitt Smith had a lot of help out there, especially given the offensive line players that were for the Cowboys compared to Barry Sanders, where he rarely had little help. So for me, in my opinion, I think Barry Sanders is the GOAT, the greatest running back of all time, in my opinion, just because Emmitt Smith had help out there. Barry Sanders was unbelievable talented. He made more guys miss tackles than any other running back in the history of NFL. Still had great statistics. I mean, he did retire early, but there's no doubt, in my opinion, he would have the rushing yards and the rushing TDs of being the all-time leader where Emmitt Smith was. Had he played a bit more seasons, he would have had that. So with that being said, I have to put Barry Sanders here as my ultimate GOAT. But folks, that does it here is another edition of the GOAT series on Jimmy How's YouTube channel. What are your thoughts? Who did I not mention on this list that you think should have more recognition and should have been mentioned on this video? Leave in the chat. Before I leave, make sure you leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for our next episode. But as always, guys, I thank you for watching. I appreciate it. That's a wrap here in the studio. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. And as always, go Pack Go.